Hello everybody, thank you for coming back. Might be your first time here, hopefully you'll stick around. Might be your return, which is pretty good because some of the conversations we've had, we could potentially turn a lot of people away. This is the Sacred Masculinity podcast. We've also got the video happening as well. My name's Maurice, we've got Ian, we've got Damien and we've got Nathan. Today, we're sort of going to follow on a little bit from probably our last two conversations, which have been around, I guess, men's sexuality, inviting the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine into the space. And I wanted to introduce a concept that came to me through a meditation and followed into the evening after the meditation. I wasn't even sure if it was a dream, but when I woke up and throughout the night, there was just one word that was really apparent to me, and it's the word was Yoni Man. And I thought, oh, Yogi Man? No, it's Yoni Man. So I thought, what does that mean? And I wanted to I'll open it up and just share it with you guys. I've already spoken to some of you about it before, but I want to get, I guess, your perspective on it and I guess where that can go too. So recently through our talkings around tantric sex, self-pleasuring, subliming the energies and the chi that we have within us, we've also been talking about a lingam and a yoni. And so these come from yogic traditions, where the lingam, in a sense, is the male appendage, and the yoni is the female appendage. But it really originates from spiritual senses, and it's not the physical male appendage and the physical female appendage. It's more so the yoni represents the womb of creation, and the lingam represents the masculine, right? And through yogic traditions, we have three lingams. We have a lingam in the base chakra, one in the heart, and then also one in the third eye. Yeah. And we sort of start to talk about how does your lingam penetrate the womb of life? And the womb of life is, well, how does your lingam penetrate your day? How do you meet your day? And then I think the word penetrate was even probably too harsh.
Very masculine.
Yeah, very masculine. So then we flipped it to, how does the womb of creation invite your lingam to co-create with it? So there's an invitation then. Yeah. So the yoni, in essence, represents creation and the womb of creation. Now, if we look at it from every perspective, whether you're male or female, you actually come from the feminine. You know, we're not born out of masculine, we're born out of feminine. So we come out of the womb and we're created. And so when we start to look at creation itself, it is the womb of life. So if we looked at the universe and space, even if we look at space versus the planets, and even coming to a deeper understanding of quantum physics, everything is space. Okay, but there is a manifestation that there is some planets and stars that are existing within energy, densities, that sort of stuff. So we could look out into the night sky, and all of the blackness that we could see could, in essence, be represented by the womb of creation, and all of the physical manifestations that we see could then represent the masculine of it. And not that there's a male and a female; it's just more interpretations of it. So the yoni represents this feminine energy, and we all come from the feminine energy, which is receptive and yielding, and creative and loving, I guess, in essence. And then you've got the lingam that then represents the masculine energy. So there's this, from a Taoist perspective, yin would be the yoni and the yang would be the lingam. There's the movement. Yeah. So this concept of Yoni Man then was, in essence, well, I'm thinking it's the balancing of the masculine and the feminine. But to coming to the understanding that the feminine is the one that holds space. The feminine is the designer and the architect for the masculine to then speak from, to then move from. And if we as not only men but women can come to an understanding that the feminine is the essence of creation and then the masculine is the movement. So in the feminine there is the stillness and in the masculine there is the movement. Doesn't make things right or wrong or anything, we're just using masculine and feminine. Yeah. So the concept of Yoni Man is not only representative of the male form, but it also is representative of the female form. Because both masculine and feminine energies exist within both masculine and feminine forms. But the underlying components of it is the feminine supports, and it's the architecture, it holds the space, and then the masculine is the one that, in a sense, seeks out the wisdom. So feminine has love, masculine has wisdom. And there's so much more that, wanted to, I guess, pull that apart and share. So some of you guys already have had this conversation with me, but I'm just introducing it to the people listening. The Yoni Man is a concept of balancing the masculine and the feminine, but coming to the realization that we all come from the feminine, and that is the space that holds the masculine, so it can then speak, it can then move, it can then, in a sense, create and manifest. But underlying all of that is really this feminine component. So I'll throw that to you guys.
Interesting. What's come up for me then is thinking about the whole story of Adam and Eve. When you talk about wisdom and love, Adam ate from the tree of knowledge. So then he was in. Is that a symbol? Did Eve eat as well?
Eve picked the fruit.
But he ate from it. So is that then
Encouraging
some symboling of that knowledge that the wisdom? So the male is the wisdom.
I think there's a little bit more missing story.
Probably.
Yeah.
I know. I was just saying what's come up.
What really comes up in Christianity is that it's kind of she picked the fruit and pretty much peer pressured him to take it. So.
Yeah. Which is a real negative interpretation of the feminine. Now, let's just totally, start that from day one.
Total narcissist.
Total narcissist. And who made that shit up?
A male.
A male. I won't say the masculine. I'll say a male. Coming from the egoic perspective of power over.
Differentiation, have to start using it more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have a question.
No,
This one takes
listening to you.
Rattle on about stuff that I know.
Oh well, it's interesting.
Yeah,
Every time I'm around you, and things are said, you can't quite believe you always know stuff about everything. It's like, how do you do this?
Just raw.
Somehow I have a membership, and it's just, I don't know. I take interest in just about everything.
Should we leave a T on it?
And I'm similar, but I just it's interesting. Really cool.
It's the brain is a computer, and I think it's partly about like having a database so you can know the query to get the data out.
Well, I with the hypno and that,
You got
even so.
Yeah. Sometimes I say stuff and I don't remember that.
Have you heard of with the hypnotherapy? It's a where there's two hypnotherapists.
No.
It's like binaural beats.
Yeah. So I was listening to and it is. And so
left and right hemisphere talking.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so they found that by doing a double script or having two practitioners, what you'll do is that you'll tap into one and then the other one goes in subliminally. I'll send you a.
It's almost like it's distracting.
So could you tape a session and that's two hypnotherapists?
Well, you could
talk it while you're listening.
Well, because everything's in stereo. Like when you listen to stuff on headphones, it's stereo.
Yeah.
So you just have that's all binaural beats. It's sending different sounds.
So what you're hearing is, so I'll put on our group page a meditation around abundance and money.
That'd be cool.
And it's by Brian Scott.
Oh yeah.
Around the Revolution. So
I watched a lot of his stuff.
And you hit
it's cool.
it hits this, and then all of a sudden sit and you go, which one do I listen to?
Right.
So you can't listen to both.
Right.
So the one that
do you make a choice?
Yeah, the one that you tune. So I'll tune into my right.
Yeah.
But then it's not hitting it at the same time.
Yeah.
So it'll come into this one, and then this will fire up, and then this one.
It'll be interesting too, because if you're right-handed or left-handed, it changes which is the dominant hemisphere, and so you have to change which one you want it to go in, which confuses
It
things.
doesn't matter though then.
Because it's both the same. Well, it's a similar script.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, right.
Yeah, so they're not different scripts.
Yeah.
They're similar scripts.
But they're both working
But
anyway.
they're both, in
That's
different
cool.
display.
It's almost like it's distracting one hemisphere from overriding the other one.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's like with back to masculine and feminine. Some people say one side of the brain is masculine, one side of the brain is feminine as well.
It's just
Oh.
with the right side of the body.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
You believe it?
No, I'm just saying people
Yeah.
say that.
maybe archetypes.
Yeah. It's like one side's supposed to be logical, and one side's
I
creative,
mean, yeah. Well,
and male brain is supposed to be more logical.
physically. Yeah.
Mm. But see, that way you can, maybe not brain, but
Hmm.
masculine. And so this is something that within the Yoni Man experience is that
Are we on?
Yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah. that
Just roll into the topic.
like say Dana, you've got some stuff going on,
Yeah.
for a good while.
Yeah. Straight into it. It's fine. Yes. I've got sciatica. So everyone's giving me this type of therapy at the moment.
this is
I'm
really
just
an
listening.
It's really an intervention.
That's it. So the masculine part of you will want to try to work out why this is happening.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what the masculine naturally does is it tries to pull everything apart and see all of the parts as separate to then try to put it together. And as it tries to put it together, it then comes out. So it sort of steps into the project room and it pulls everything apart, puts it back together, writes the manual for it, steps out of the project room, and then goes to the female or the feminine, hey, look what I found. Now, the beautiful thing about the masculine doing that is that it's seeking wisdom, and the wisdom is through the knowledge and the experience. So it can't just be, and I guess here is the feminine works from love. The feminine just goes, just love everything. You go, okay, well, that's fine, but I'm not actually learning anything out of that other than loving it. Maybe that's all we really need to do, is to love things. But we have a polarity that exists within us, and there is the masculine and the feminine. So each one has its own purpose. So the feminine just goes, okay, if you want to go down there, go and do it, right? But you're going to probably hurt yourself while you're there. I'm just saying, it's all about love, And so the masculine then steps into the project room, goes in there, bangs around, knocks around things, tries to pull it apart, puts it back together, and comes out and goes, hey, I worked it out. All you got to do is love it.
Yeah.
And the feminine goes,
Isn't
okay.
It's interesting that you do that, because one of the things I learned through my journey is about how relationships work, and as men we're problem solvers. So women come to us with a problem, or an issue, and we want to solve it. And they go, I just want to be heard.
Yes.
Just listen to me.
Yes.
Shut the hell up.
Yes.
And then we go, no, I've got to fix it.
Yeah.
And so that was one of those things that I don't use, because I sit there and go, I think my brain's gone. You've got to solve this. Yeah.
Every man learns that lesson
Yes.
the hard way.
Exactly.
I don't know if I've learned the lesson.
No, you're still trying to fix
still
it.
solving.
We're fixers. That's we're doers.
It's interesting, everything you just said, I just saw a picture of my life at present in a way. So I've been gaining a lot of knowledge lately, I presume. But then I'm running off to, some other practitioners that are just purely holding space and saying, just love. So, I'm getting all of it. It's really amazing. It's actually, you just put it all in a nice little picture for me.
Yes. So when we go and see another, because they don't have the experience, the best that they can do is hold space and love. Because they can't go in the experience with you. You're the one who needs it. So what happens then is that our feminine, the yoni, holds space for the lingam to go and seek the understanding. But sometimes it's too much for the yoni to hold space. So what happens? Let me draw upon another yoni. Okay, so if I go and see a practitioner, then the practitioner, all they have to do is offer their yoni.
Yep.
They don't have to do any masculine work because they're just supporting your yoni.
Amazing.
Yeah. Now, as we talk about that, I can come to you and you can offer me your feminine to
Yeah.
hold space. So it's not that I have to go to a female
right.
to hold space for me. And the same goes with, say there's a female who's going through something, right? The masculine part of her wants to understand what's happening. Yeah, but the feminine part of her goes, well, I'm just ready to hold space, but I'm a little bit unsure of this. Can we get somebody else to hold space for us? You know? So the Yoni Man is representative of the masculine and feminine within both male and female. Yeah. But primarily, if you can come to the understanding that the female, the feminine, the Yoni, is holding space because we're actually in the Yoni. We're in the feminine. It's more so that the masculine resides in the feminine. The masculine is not a different part of it.
Pretty well just explained Ho'oponopono, which is I love you.
Yeah.
Forgive me. Just holding space. They don't need to necessarily know what's
no,
going on.
that's right.
It's like, okay, well, I just need to love it.
Yes.
They need to know why. It's just turn up and noise.
That's right.
You're holding space.
Yeah.
Same principle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very similar.
Makes sense as well. So if someone, say like you're in a partnership and then you go seek out a friend for consolation of what's kind of going on, but you're really just asking for their Yoni to hold space for you.
For your Yoni.
For your Yoni to then support your Yoni holding space.
Subconsciously resonated as well. Maybe, and sometimes you are seeking for the answers as well.
Yeah. And sometimes they're masculine, or their lingam will then want to have its own wisdom because it's already been down that path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in that circumstance the Yoni will hold space or create the platform for the lingam or the masculine to then speak from to the other person.
So as a therapist then, or a coach, or someone holding space for people who come to you, let's say a teacher, then in life then the feminine allows you to go through an experience, just like I'm having now, my sciatica, to allow me then to go through that process of holding space for myself with the feminine, but also as well dissect it with the masculine and have an understanding of it. So then I can then have the ability to hold space for someone else who's going through such a depth.
Which is exactly what I'm doing when I'm sitting with you. So the whole time we're having that masculine talk, I'm going, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. The whole time. I'm just loving you in that situation.
It makes sense because lately as well myself, because of potentially coming into my Yoni space more, the
gave me like the last dribbles out of the teapot.
The space on being able to it's been really interesting. Same as you, so I'm starting to really do those sorts of things, feel more connected somehow, and holding space and listening a lot more in a way, but then also being able to have a more gentle style of wisdom than maybe once upon a time.
So you're being really present.
Forceful sort of wisdom.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Do that.
Yeah. And so now it's almost an emotional style of wisdom where this person's now also full of this energy and this gratitude because they can feel this sort of energy.
Do you also feel like there's a sense of, like, I find now there's like a sense of knowingness, like what's coming out of your mouth? You say it and you go, I don't know exactly where that came from.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It's just,
well,
it's either knowledge that I've got or I don't. Yeah, it's like, where that came from.
It's quite often lately, and I'll say to them afterwards, I don't know why I said that, it just, for some reason I have to say
I do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
You needed to hear it, I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those, it's a nice thing, and it's well received, Anyway,
yeah, the
so
energy
it's coming from the feminine.
I presume this now, and
I think it's a combination.
Well, I think that's what we just started coming to. I think Maurice was sort of suggesting is Yoni holding a space for, and you've said as well, masculine to impart knowledge to a person that needs both. That they want the knowledge plus the Yoni supporting them. So I guess it's a combination at times because we've been taught in a space of
Well, I think it's also
the masculine.
that you're in balance.
Yeah,
You've
potentially.
got to balance to where you need to be.
I think, yeah,
that's how
that's
I
part
feel
of it.
now. I
Yeah,
feel balanced.
And that's actually what I was thinking. I'm going, oh yeah, we're getting more in balance, so we're able to hold
Yeah.
space in either.
So, which is what I was
Polarity.
saying to Maurice is that I think what we're all attaining for, and I was listening to this from a few people, it's not happiness but peace, and that's that balance. So you're able to sit in whatever situation. Like I was able to see you with you today and just be at peace with
Yeah.
what was happening, rather than previously, like I said, I don't fucking do this shit. Because my energy felt like being lower, but now I'm able to hold it
So that's
because I'm in balance.
similar because I always, happiness, but there's an opposite to happiness. So then I was.
Happiness is something you attain.
So what I've been trying to work on lately, or what I've been told for
Yeah.
me, is just be. And
Yeah,
so that's
it's
peace, right?
present too.
Present, just be. You be. I'm
Joy.
like, oh, be. Okay, I am. Just be.
Because every moment is as it is.
Trying to work on. Trying.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I am.
I am.
Have been working really well on this.
I am at peace.
It's hard to break some of those neural pathways.
Well, I just did it. I did it within 17 seconds.
You did it, well done, yeah.
Bang.
Oh, so it's broken now.
Well, it's not broken, but I'm getting there to New York.
Abraham Leaks talks about 17 seconds.
17
If you can
seconds.
hold a thought for 17 seconds, it gets momentum.
So then if you create, if you go stop, bang, do another thing, within 17, new neurons, new pathway,
Yeah.
and you start a new behavior. So someone taught me,
The longer the better.
as soon as you recognize, just scream, stop, and then
Yes.
and you just,
Yeah.
and you do something different, and then
Yeah.
suddenly you're going to stop another behavior.
Just go, you need to start talking to it.
Stop.
Change what it's going in your head.
Sciatica. Stop.
But then no, because
You're
then
still
it's,
thinking about it.
you're still thinking sciatica.
I
It's
love
like
you,
it's like when I say
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
think about the pink elephant, you're going to think about the pink elephant.
I'm thinking purple right now.
Well, whatever. No, I'm thinking about purple. Fuck you.
There's in all
And
those.
I'm not, what does that mean?
You're in peace.
You're at peace.
No, I'm just an airhead.
In all those kind of.
It's a beautiful way.
It is a beautiful
Oh,
thing, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
a little short, like
Yeah, same. The blue pill.
The blue. The red.
Was that
It's the red pill.
It's the red.
It's the red pill to get out.
Out or in?
Out, I thought.
What are you
You
getting?
have to watch the Matrix.
We're getting into.
No, well, when he's talking to Orpheus, doesn't he say if you take the blue pill?
The Orpheus Island.
No, Orpheus and Matrix, yeah.
Morpheus or Orpheus?
Orpheus. Oh, Morpheus. Yeah, sorry. We're talking Morpheus. He goes, if you want to go back to your life, it's blue pill. If you want to get out, it's the red pill.
Yeah, I don't remember, but there you go.
Who says the red pill?
Reference.
Do you
The
know,
reference
Alex,
was
is
on
it the red pill or the blue pill?
Red pill.
Red pill for what?
No one who takes blue.
No one takes the blue.
They don't want to go back to blue.
They don't want to go back to reality?
They want to go back to the computer.
Well, what is
program.
reality? Isn't it all reality?
Ooh.
Is this another podcast? It's just a relative revolution. Played for Brian Scott.
Yeah, again.
He's a few guys.
We've actually.
We've been in a really good place.
We just solved everything, so.
What, there is no such thing as reality. It's weird. We can go now.
I can't. Is it the blue pill or the red
So
pill?
the blue pill, the red pill. Orpheus Island, Dave. No.
Could be both. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, maybe it's the green pill.
What if you take them both at the same time?
Oh, red and
Then
blue.
you-
It was
no,
a
then you
purple
have-
one. It was
That's,
colourful.
that's when you have split personality. It's half stuck in the program and
What
half stuck out
happened?
here.
It went away.
Oh,
That's what you're sort of half there and half there, mate. You just need to take that leg and put it in the other spot. That's what's going on.
In the other spot.
Yeah, you got one leg still over here hanging on.
So I'm still
That's good, actually,
getting
good
the
analogy,
stuff,
isn't it?
right? So I'm kind of wondering what's going
Yeah.
on. Why am I still getting stuff?
What do you
Are
mean?
you-
You're getting
you-
right.
Well,
Are you getting it too?
from then. Remember the other night, the
getting it
meditation from ages ago, right?
I wake up-
Cacao, right?
Yeah.
And I've still been getting stuff. And
Yeah.
cacao. And it's driving me nuts. And I'm kind of partly going, is it these guys carrying my stuff? Or is it,
But we're collective, so
Oh,
yes.
so maybe Damo's carrying your shit.
is he? I don't know. That's
Because
what I'm starting to wonder now.
Well, I woke up this morning, got out of bed, and went,
Is it an old thing that
Damo, what are you doing to me?
potential?
It's his stuff.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's just that you're
Ah, I love you pointing the finger. There's 3 pointing back, sir.
He's helping me. He's helping me.
Actually, it was like that since.
How else
So,
I
yeah,
got it?
it's his stuff.
Would be the guru.
No, not his.
Chief Longhorn over here.
Oh, Longhorn. I said
Is it Longhorn or Longhorn?
Longhorn.
Yeah, I looked it up, I couldn't find anything.
That's it. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
There's nothing about this
No.
guy other than.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
There's something related to a certain tribe, but they don't actually
That's a
mention.
Kiowa.
Yeah.
Kiowa. tribe. And there's Longhorn Mountain.
Yes.
So what I found from Longhorn Mountain was that the Cheyenne tribe and other tribes would do a pilgrimage to Longhorn Mountain, which was a sacred mountain, and they would do a thing called Vision Quest.
Oh yeah.
So Vision Quest is about finding your guides.
Yeah.
And it was a male thing. So this has got to do with the male retreats that we're doing.
Alright. You using coyote as well?
No. So there's no coyote.
No, that's sweat lodge, drumming,
So,
shamanic stuff.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So what they would basically do is they'd have a loincloth, they'd have a pair of moccasins, they'd have tobacco and a pipe, and then they would go on fast for 4 days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They would meet their guides, and the guides would channel to them sacred song, how to paint your face, and if you were going to be either a healer or a warrior. Now, the interesting thing around that is that I thought, well, I was talking to Longhorn, I said, well, that doesn't really have relevance where we're at the moment. But then what came through was that the healer is the feminine and the warrior is the masculine. So it's not an either or, it's both. And so what I thought within the retreats is that we're looking at introducing guides, which we have been doing anyway. We could even come to that point where you're putting on your own face as well. But then coming to an understanding of the healing nature within self, which is the feminine, which is the Yoni, and the warrior nature within self. So that's where that Yogi Man, or not Yogi Man, Yoni Man then comes into as well. Because I've been asking us, and we've made an agreement, okay, I'm happy to work with you, we need to make this relevant. And so what I found interesting is when you do look for Longhorn, there's nothing about him. He was a Spanish child. He was a Spanish child taken from his parents and introduced into the Kiowa tribe. And he then married one of the girls.
That's your face.
So then,
it's your play. It's my
there's,
your play.
I inferred a couple of things you said. So it's not your self, your guide, your higher self, your future self. This is
It's a guy that stepped forward.
who's called himself this. So someone else, yeah.
Chief.
Yeah. All right. So it's just someone that you asked for and they came, and then you're.
Well, yeah. Well, I think
you didn't ask for them, but
through the
somebody.
work that we've been doing,
Yeah.
and it did say in Sam's thing, she said that he'd been working with me for the past 14 years.
Oh, this is that person.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So can I get everyone looking at Nathan?
5th, 6th.
Don't know. Not too sure.
So
I was thinking 7th the other day. I was doing some stuff and I was going.
everyone's looking at you.
No one's talked about it yet, but I feel like I don't know, something around that.
I sat with 7.
Oh, you did?
I sat
Okay.
with 7.
Maybe I've got it from you.
High 7.
Right. Cool.
And it was nothing.
It was nothing.
It was nothing.
Well, that goes along then with the wrath thing, though, right?
It was no, it was a state of nothingness.
Well,
That would be.
And the only thing that was
but he's not here.
was relevant.
I am here.
It could be.
Yeah, the only thing that was really relevant was breath.
Yep.
Oh, this is where breath came from.
Yeah. That
So been doing a lot of breath lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because we watched that healing for the woman with Joe Dispenza, and she was having a
The cancer lady?
No, she had something wrong with her hip, and then she hadn't had proper bowel movement in 20 years. She had to take like a hot enema for 2 hours every day just to go to the toilet, and the blue beans came. But she was then, when she came home, she was in a
With her or with Joe?
with her,
Yeah.
like physically could drop off the ground.
Oh,
I'll send you the clips like 30 minutes long. But anyway, she was saying that then she was talking to what she thought was God. And she said, "Who are you?" And you basically went, "I am breath." And that's what it said. And when you were talking about that, I was like, and we were watching it, I was like, there it is.
I flicked you
Yes.
on.
That's right, yeah.
So that's from the choir group talking about the breath
Yep.
is as one, the breath of the Creator as the the beginning of the universe and then the end of the universe, and then it breathes again. And
Yeah.
There's another universe.
Yeah.
How far in
I
the
watched
quote
read
is
that.
that?
Uh,
That's pretty interesting.
It was just something from
Right.
Law of One on Instagram.
Yeah, it was just the text. It wasn't.
I
a
thought I
video.
watched all the quote. I don't remember that.
Yeah. I'll,
From Brian.
No. There's,
Sorry, that was me
Yeah.
saying I've watched all the
Oh,
Brian
okay,
stuff
from
on
Brian.
quote. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't remember that part of it.
No,
There's-
it's just like a post.
Yeah.
So that was interesting around the breath.
So then, how does that relate to the masculine and feminine? There's one in, one out. Am I just trying to dissect it as the two different things? That's an interesting one. Because one's a creation, and one's the giving of life.
Yeah, so maybe the breath in is so what I'm sort of sensing is that, and if we have a before and after, like if you're going to have, so what is the space?
So I was going to say the space might be
What is the
between each
space
one
for the
is
breath?
male and feminine.
Yeah, because I think even in that one from Quo, it talks about the space in between the breaths, the space in between the heartbeats. We always thought there was nothing in between the heartbeats, and there's so much.
Yeah.
So the breath is human and the space between is.
Yeah. So, but maybe the breath in is the life-giving because it's the oxygen, and then the breath out is then the carbon dioxide. So maybe that's a manifesting process. Maybe it's a masculine. So maybe the in-breath is the feminine, and the out-breath is the masculine.
Yeah, well, the in-breath's the giver of life, isn't it?
It's the-
It's the life creation. Without that in,
Without that in, you can't have it out.
That's right. So it's that yin-yang still, isn't it? Right down to its simplest form.
Yeah,
Breath.
and then when you pass, when you transition, it's the last breath out. It's the life force then starts. But see the micro and the macro? See,
Yeah, so there's a universe even within us. Universes.
within every breath.
I love that when whoever gave that to one of you guys talked about it the other day. It's going away and I'm using this a lot at the moment.
Well, you think about
Beautiful.
every organ system has its own group of cells that have decided to do this task, or that they see their own, this is their universe.
It's so pretty. I love that so much.
And it's that's that everything is one. What were you saying yesterday around teal swan, around the suggestion if there is one that's actually separation?
Well, oneness.
Integration.
Oneness stands for
Yeah.
oneself. So as soon as you, and I've heard this before somewhere, where as soon as you give something a name, that's a separation. Because you're identifying something. So using the, I think I've heard one of the gurus, yogi gurus say this, because as soon as you call it God, you see it as separate. So you really shouldn't have a name.
Well, I know, but how do
But you have to because of this.
How do you translate? How do you communicate?
That's why she's just used the word it's integration.
Integration.
Because we're all integrating, in the process of integrating.
Then that even suggests there's a separation.
That's exactly right. So you can't really,
Still no name.
you can't really
So
give
it's
it a name.
it's
So that's why I say
it's
that
dualistic.
which cannot be named.
But then we also are having these fractally experiences that are separate, but we're still connected, and so there's.
Well,
They're
but
not
that-
really separate, are they?
Well, we're connected, but
It's just not
are they
consciously
separate?
aware of
They're
it.
different.
Well, they're unique
They're unique
expressions.
experiences.
You are a unique
I don't know. It's
expression.
funny. I was getting into one that I'm not now.
What
it's
is
like
fractal
hard.
experience?
No, teal or swan.
Yeah, I think
I've really-
she's channeling too.
Right.
Like, we had this conversation about Eckhart Tolle. Like, is he channeling?
It's true.
He's got to be channeling.
Eckhart.
Because when you see him just talk normally, as you said, when you read his book, which I haven't listened to, but when you see him having a chat, it's this, and you see him, he's really centered and he's just
He doesn't,
really,
doesn't move.
and there's no, it's monotone, there's no emotion to
You
his
can fall
words.
asleep to it.
Yeah.
There's many lifetimes that happen in between his words.
Yeah, exactly. He's really like,
Now I'm 40 years old.
get it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you ever watch him on YouTube and he's just sitting doing it.
You can see he really
A
thinks
little bit, but not much actually. Got a book of his.
he's very slow. And even his partner, I mean, she is as well. You watching it with her? She's very, very.
You'd have
Slow
to imagine
monotone.
so, though, right?
No, I noticed that the other day when I was doing it, when Mary turned up, my voice changed. It became very. I thought it was very. Yeah, and
So sexy.
Oh no!
Oh, that's great, really.
Therein lies the problem. I didn't know you felt that way about me.
Just joking.
That's-
Just joking.
That's his masculine.
Next time I'm wearing a chastity belt.
Just create a little space between you, that's all. Yeah.
So where did we dive off from before?
So we were talking about how Teal Swan was talking about that.
Oh no,
Don't
way
name
back before Monk
When I
came.
stepped out, yeah, okay.
Yoni Man.
Yoni Man. So do you
We
get
do
that,
do a lot of this.
the feminine whole space for the masculine to explore, to gain the wisdom, to
Absolutely.
come out, and it's the masculine that, once again,
I think I've seen this all my life actually. Funny story. I mean, I'm seeing it more now. It's now cemented in a sense.
Yeah.
However, most of my life, I do see stories now where I have been in touch with my feminine quite a bit, and it's been not necessarily helpful, but also amazingly helpful at certain times in my life. But yeah, I think I've floated around being in touch with that a lot. But now the wisdom of that is really helpful.
It does shift though. When I have the intention of the feminine holding the masculine, it shifts.
Have the intention of the feminine holding the masculine. I think for me, recently, it's definitely in that regard shifted in a big way. And It's different completely, as opposed to previously. I don't know. It was just an untaught, natural, given to me by people, or I don't know. My naive, innocent, whatever, working through me. But definitely lately, there's more intent, and so therefore it feels different. Yeah, for me as well. Yeah.
How does it affect your relationship with your wife then as well?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So we haven't really gone through a lot of the topics, except I do overhear her talk to other people about it. So it's kind of cool, but in a positive way. It's obviously doing good things, but also there's parts of it which are we haven't spoken about, but we need to in a sense, because there's a bit of fear there, I guess, as well around I don't know, the possibilities. God knows what the thoughts are. But yeah, no, it's something. I think it's a positive thing as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it'd be interesting to go into a conversation with a woman with the intent that I'm coming from a place of that, like I'm coming from a space of the feminist holding the masculine, and I'm going into the conversation with her with that, and see how it shifts the dialogue and what's actually happening.
Well, I had that dialogue with Stevie last night, but obviously from a friendship kind of thing, it was magic, and she loved it. She really heard, how you explained it, exactly what I explained to her. She said, I actually just saw what you were talking about. And she really loved it.
I feel like recently I'm doing that a lot with clients.
Yes, of course.
And it's shifted so much in the last year, my relationships with these people, and the people coming to me now, it's just they're coming because of this, and because they tell this person and they come and the experience is
That's also your vibrations raising, so they want to come along.
Yeah,
Before they feel it.
and then being able to, I'm not sure, hold that space somehow. I don't know if it's, for me, it's not always as intentional. I feel it's what you guys.
Sometimes it's not for me. Sometimes it happens. And I went, oh, what happened then? I went, didn't even think about that, but that's what was happening.
But then I'm in it's like repetition. You're in a place and a time when Johnny Wilkinson lining it up, and
or maybe you just got to that point.
You keep doing it. It becomes a practice in a sense. But it's like, this thing seems to be working really well, and it's helping them. Let's do this again now with this person.
Yes.
And so I don't know. There's a thing there that just is beautiful, and then and lately, especially females are sort of are loving it and finding it beautiful, and there's lots of things going on, lots of emotions, and it's quite amazing to hold it.
The other thing
vulnerable.
we were talking about yesterday was about the whole women being in tune with the lunar cycle, their cycle with the planet and that sort of stuff. And we discussed that and how that changes the male hormones. That doesn't happen, but from my experience being in a relationship with someone, I did notice my emotions fluctuating with theirs.
Yes.
Because of the pheromones, but when we were talking about when there's no females around, it's all testosterone.
So is it affected or is it?
The cycles with them, and I remember being in an office with a heap of guys, and there was women, and they all felt it because they're working with these women, and we all know when it was their cycle because we would all feel a shift in our emotions. Because they're giving off pheromones.
Yep.
Like you look at the animal kingdom, which we are part of.
Yep.
The male knows that it's time to procreate because the pheromones have been given off to smell.
Yep.
So we're not even conscious of where it's happening.
Yeah, and I think the lead-in conversation to that was that the feminine naturally is more receptive and intuitive because there is cycles.
Yeah.
So there's more of a awareness of an intuitive nature within the female form because of the biology that is actually happening. Whereas the biology for the male,
It's so instinctive with theirs.
we don't have that. So it's more so either reactive or responsive to the environment, and then you then start to learn this. I don't say this at this time. I do say this. I can move like this. I can't move like that. So, but even there's that masculine trying to work that out.
Yeah.
You know, and
Rather
it's
than just
process of
intuitively feeling through
elimination.
it.
Yeah. Whereas if the feminine was to become aware of it, there wouldn't be any need for explanation. It would just be, this is what I do. And I don't know what I do. But then awareness comes into it where you then become consciously competent rather than your unconscious competence.
Beautiful.
So where the consciousness comes, conscious awareness comes into it, that could then also be seen as the masculine. Because now I'm understanding what I'm doing, whereas the feminine is just, this is just what I do.
Wow. Cool.
I think you talked to me about it one day about I'm trying to make this so someone can't be identified, about working with a female who had been working in the male world so long that she lost touch with that feminine side of it. Was it you who was talking about that? And realised she was not coping with that masculine. She'd become too masculine. Was that masculine side of her and needed to come back this way a bit more.
So I'm seeing this. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm seeing this a lot, and I don't want to go too far into this.
Come on.
Yeah. It does happen though.
It happens quite a bit, and
so a lot of people I work with, I find that they're so in their masculine, the feminine is, the female is so in their masculine that they find it very hard then to find a partner. Because a partner then has to out-masculine them in their environment at home to bring polarity back in. Or otherwise then the female takes the masculine spot and the male then takes the feminine spot.
And then causes a whole lot of distortions for them.
Yeah.
You've got a balance in imbalance in both
both.
entities.
Yeah, beautiful.
So then what really comes down to is
through compensation.
Yeah. Because obviously for a lot of women being in that environment where they have to be in that kind of masculine do all day, then coming home and being in a place where they're like, oh, I can shift back into my feminine now and surrender and can I? Because obviously we're in a very patriarchal world as well, so I'm not saying that's wrong or right.
No,
But it's just the way it is at the moment. It's shifting. But I think then people being consciously aware of how to shift that back into the polarities that work better for their relationships. So they can have,
and it's also contextual.
Yes.
So, it's not one in all in.
Yep.
In particular contexts, one can be a bit more vulnerable. In other areas, one may still need to be, like in a work sense, if you're a CEO or you're stepping into that space, and there's a lot of masculine around you, you may have to actually exhibit extra masculine. But in a home sense, when I don't have that, can I be able to, I guess, take the coat off, take the shield off, take the armour off?
Well, that's part of the whole coming back to self, isn't it? We always come back to self, working on the self, slowing down, being present, conscious of all of that. And unfortunately, probably a lot of people aren't present. The masculine is coming through quite strongly in some women that I know.
Yeah. And then there's also, the masculinated feminine, which is like, I must also put I must look perfect. My hair must be done. I must have my makeup on. All these kind of things, the to-do list to keep up today's, or the projection of today's societal rules, in which it's like
But that's the competition for the partner.
Yeah.
That's looking so I can get the male, the successful male. That's.
Or sometimes.
Do you think
it's a
it's
competition between females?
Females, there's a competition with the females to get the best mate.
I've
Which
had
can be-
conversation with a lot of females about this, and it's always
They're competing
they
with each other.
say I don't know. They're competing with each other, but I didn't think it was necessarily for the males.
Yeah, I don't think
Well, I don't think they realise that's well, this is my
Potentially.
take on it. That
Yeah.
that's what it's really about. They do see it as a competition with each other because they're all judging each other.
Yeah.
But if you go back to what that genetically is that's competing for the best mate.
So we
Who will
compete
provide-
then.
Yeah, which I bring it back to ego then.
Oh, for sure.
Because ego's around identification
Yep.
and
Yep.
hierarchy
Yep.
of success.
Mm.
So
So that's still programming that's
Still
within.
programming.
And so then,
not being recognised.
if we've got all these checklists of just this plus then how many children, how much business acumen and things, and like trying to have it all be masculine and feminine, it's crazy stuff. So out of balance, it's pretty hard. Like,
Yeah, there's a definitely.
I love this conversation. I really.
Yeah. They're actually starting to also see that couples that have real delineated roles, especially in the house.
Explain that to me.
Well, if you go back to the traditional way of life, where
Yep.
the male did this, like he
Yep.
made the lawn, he did
Yep.
that, and the female, where there's not this,
Yep.
oh, it's your turn this day,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
your turn that day. They're finding those relationships now actually working better
Yep.
than when there's this haze of, well,
Yep.
I don't know what my role in this relationship
Yep.
is, because they don't know. It's like, okay, is it my turn to take them along?
It makes it very
Yeah.
clear then as well, because then because then it comes down to that emotional baggage. So that positive and negative polarity, where
That's a good
like,
point.
so if you're always fulfilling your roles in the household, then you're not making deductions. She doesn't have to go to you, oh, please take the rubbish out.
Yeah.
And it's like, cha-ching. Where it's like, oh, I've already taken the rubbish out. There you go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
let's keep adding up.
Yeah.
And then obviously then when it gets to that low point, it's like, well, that's when that frustration, the big
Yeah.
what kind of jazz comes
Yeah.
in as well.
I've got some friends that their relationships are like that, and they're probably the ones that I see working the best. They know what their role is in the relationship.
Mm.
There's no questions most of the time.
In union, I've talked a bit about this with different people in a union. We both have all of these traits, and but within that, you suddenly work out which one might be stronger. Therefore, it's an efficiency. And so you, for myself and my wife, for instance, we went, all right, you're better at that. You just do it.
Yeah.
And so and I don't even know if it's a male or female thing. It was just an efficiency thing. So I think we worked out, and I don't know if it's necessarily the same delineated role model. It might be different between couples, but it was, for me, it's like this efficiency thing. It's just, all right.
But you've worked out what your roles are.
over a certain amount of time,
Yeah.
and just went,
Yeah.
you're better, you do
I'm
it.
not saying it has to be traditional, like man does all this.
No,
It's
no.
just-
I was just
to
thinking
do
about how
delineation.
it related to my relationship potentially, and how it worked.
But on the flip side, I've got some friends who, a mate who's very submissive, but he likes to cook and do all that sort of stuff, and his partner, you can see, struggles with it because she's like, well, hang on, that's my role. But he loves it, and so her identity's like, well, where am I? What
It's
am I in this
teaching as well
relationship?
from your parents potentially.
Yeah.
You have to be that thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's interesting. But the other thing I also have noticed, and when I've worked in environments where, like, because I worked in health a lot, and you've probably seen this, where there's all females in the department, and they end up just eating each other. And they go, it's so great when a male comes in here.
You dilute the mix.
Yeah, well, they've got something else to focus on.
Yeah.
Rather than attacking each other. It's really interesting to see that.
And so there's that.
What's that about?
There-
It's the balancing, yeah.
Well, it's the balance of the masculine and feminine within. And, there's, when there is male forms and female forms, there is it changes the interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes the interactions internally between the masculine and feminine. And which shows up, which speaks, which holds space, which doesn't speak, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the interesting thing I was wanting to bring
On
up
the
was,
edge.
you were talking before about the roles in the
take up too much
house.
space.
That can also relate to your love language as well.
Yeah, well, actually, I was talking about this with a client today, and love languages, and yeah, it was quite interesting.
So what kind of natural roles you take, and then how that kind of interacts with your love language with your wife.
Yeah, for sure.
And hers might be acts of service. So you taking out the rubbish or doing the dishes would be like a love you're showing love to her.
Yeah. I talked about it today, and I was kind of trying to. Someone was telling me these things, and I was like, yeah, I get that. It makes sense. But also, I don't know. I was trying to explain how can we get beyond that in a sense. I feel like the love. I don't know. I feel like the love language thing. It's almost cheap in a way. I don't know. Is that bad? I feel like you should maybe transcend. Here's me, am I transcending something again? Yeah, but I see it. I absolutely see it. I definitely think that.
See, I think maybe also your love languages can also be related to your attachment style.
Yeah.
So love languages aren't necessarily universal. It's more so what is your programming. So your programming will potentially direct you to particular love languages. So you might even be able to then look at love languages and go, okay, this is interesting. You see more of these love languages related to these type of attachment styles.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got that nurture component there, and that's just a flow on of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So if we're looking at transcending and moving from yellow ray into green ray, and we're looking at speaking from the heart, balancing the masculine and the feminine, that's also going to change our attachment styles.
Yeah.
As our attachment styles change, then the love languages change.
Yep.
And so maybe our love language is just, being in the presence of another.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's what I was trying to say today.
That's what one of the stuff when we did that with the ripple movement. There's a guy when we did the ripple movement on that stuff, and he was saying that. He said the love language was, get rid of some viewers here again, was Christian developed. It was a Christian counselling service that actually set up, and it was based out of, And so their research says it's not so much about your love language, it's more about that presence, being present with someone. So, because,
Here's a gift.
that's
Presence with someone in
presence,
right
and I posted
way.
it the other day. Presence.
I think conscious is the word too.
Presence is the best present you can give anybody.
Because it's almost like, I know this thing pleases, so I'll do it.
Yes.
And so therefore it's like, but then you're kind of trying to gain something because you feel something, like guilt or condition or something. So it's like, I don't know if this is, like love languages, when someone was explaining it today, I kind of felt a bit, okay.
It's still putting everything in a box.
But I feel like at some point, like I say, Marie said it back there.
And not to say I don't love you, mate, but that when we got that present for you, I said to Dame, I said, gift giving is not my love language, which is really interesting. So gift giving is not one of my love languages yet. I organised that.
Yeah.
So am I changing, or is it that I know that's what he likes? I don't know.
Or you just thoughtful.
But see, intuitively, so here I've got a guide stepping forward.
Yeah.
That's aligned with what was actually happening. So you're just going, it's just working through me. So you didn't become the conduit and the path of least resistance for me to receive what it is that I need for then what we're doing to then move forward. So in a sense, you're being selfish.
Gift giving.
Wait.
See how I gaslit that?
No, you did. I just think I got fucked over.
Wouldn't it be
a ring and I liked it.
All the time now, when we're consciously present, in essence? We're downloading and realising our gifts more, and we're giving all the time our gifts.
For sure. I think sometimes it's not even real.
You're constant, exactly. So you are
just doing it, and
constantly
then you go, and
giving
that's
gifts
really awesome. You go, I'll just do whatever.
I just turned up.
And
I was present.
Which means there's no attachment to it, which is beautiful when you go, I didn't have any attachment to it.
So you're a gift giver, and you're just stepping into giving more gifts?
I'm trying not to explain stuff, I'm just living it.
Cool.
Not trying, you see that? I'm not trying.
I like that.
I'm not trying, Dame, right?
Well, that was what was coming up with me at the time. I kept using that word.
Yeah.
And then this person said to me, what's the opposite of trying? And I said, not trying. And I said, and what would that be like? What would that feel like? And I sat there and I went, I just am. I'm here. I'm being. Just being.
Presence.
Presence.
That's what
in the moment.
That's what you want. Did it. I went,
Who was this person?
cool.
Mm.
Who was this person?
Yeah,
Guess.
Lisa.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm loving my work.
It's down booked in.
Yeah. Really love the space.
She's holding space.
Hmm?
She's holding space.
Oh, so beautiful.
So notice what she does comes from the feminine. So even
Mm.
asking the question,
Mm.
it's guiding you. So
Oh.
she holds space and she guides you
And
and allows your masculine to explore.
All of it is that. It's so bizarrely
Mm.
nothing. Yeah. And then it's me. But she just sort of holds and pushes.
Yeah.
And then
Little don't come
and
over,
then
yeah.
it's incredible. So it's all me.
Yeah.
But then these things come out and she just frames shapes for me.
Yeah.
And it's quite beautiful. Yeah, these
Yeah.
things.
So the feminine, the yoni of her, is holding space for the yoni of you, and it then resonates. So then you've got that entanglement. So your yoni, your feminine, then starts to tap into that feminine,
Absolutely.
and then remembers that, and then
absolutely.
is able to go, oh, that's what happened there.
Exactly.
I can do that.
Yep.
So then you then start to become more.
Absolutely.
And it comes down to that rupture and repair.
Yep.
So. The
Mm.
repair promotes trust.
Yep.
Okay, so in
Massive.
that space, she is part of your
Huge.
repair.
Yep.
But as you start to see what that repair looks like, you
Yep.
then start to mimic it yourself, and then
Exactly.
you become your own repair.
Yep. And then working, through them feminine, through my mother, and different things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Work, and then now it's coming out within in my realm and my
Sure.
people and clients, whatever. And part of that going back and saying, hey, this is actually some of your work we're doing together everywhere. And then now it's also not saying that, but for me, it's coming through in all of us now.
Yes.
You're receiving this sort of information from different people in different ways, but it's all of us are coming into this space. It's interesting how we get it, but it's
So the way that you explain that, the way that I explain that was masculine.
right.
See how we pulled it apart,
Yeah,
we added it
True.
together, and
Yeah.
that equaled that.
And that's what
That's lovely.
helps some
Is
people.
that feminine?
That's exactly
Yeah.
So how would you explain it from the feminine?
Ooh,
That
here
was
we go.
lovely.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
He just did it.
So the feminine,
That's what I said.
She
feminine
just
held,
did
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank
so
you.
the feminine held that space, and it came with love and compassion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we're pulling it apart. It's not a course pulling it apart. It's pulling it
Yeah.
apart and seeing how it's joined with love, because
Yeah.
everything is the conduit and the glue. I guess the fabric of reality is actually love. As much as we pull things apart through the masculine, the way that we put them together is through love. So I think even that's where this. See how we pull something apart, we now got space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
The space is
Yeah.
the feminine.
Yeah, right.
When we put it back together, the space brings it together through the gravity process and holds it. So it's
Yeah.
the glue, it's the
There's
conduit.
a-
Everything is held by love.
We talked about this yesterday. There's the two ways of, like Aaron Epke talks about healing. So you can do it through the masculine way, which is breaking it down, working it out, which is a long process and probably a drawn out, more painful process. Or you can do the shadow work, which is the female side of it, which is feeling through it. Just sit it,
I'm loving both.
which is more painful
That's
but
right.
intense.
Good to have
So you got to do both.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to. Right? You don't,
No, you don't
have to do both,
anything.
but whatever's your way.
When
of
you're
going
ready
there.
to do the feminine, it's
And
it's
it is,
hard.
it's,
It's
but
powerful,
it's shorter.
beautiful. It is shorter,
You just got to realise
It is
it's
shorter.
there's two shell parts.
and then bringing back together and in a beautiful way.
Which is important in the men's retreats, doing both. Masculine and
Absolutely
the shadow work.
Yes.
Then also as well the cognitive stuff as well.
holistic.
And we obviously then don't really need to bring a female into that because we've got the yoni in ourselves. So it's
Very
that's
much so.
special.
And for the masculine, for the male retreat, I wouldn't bring it.
No, yeah, no, for sure.
No, yeah. And now that I think the yoni is coming through so much more recently,
Very much so.
consciously.
Yes.
And I feel like that absolutely this is done.
Mm.
Done. Absolutely beautiful.
It's already happened, we're just remembering.
Mm.
We might call it.
Call it.
Sure.
That was beautiful. Thank you very much, Yoni Man. That was.
That's usually I said something that needs to be deleted.
That's right.
As necessarily.
Same.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
That, the
Thank
cheap
you. everybody for
I'll put it online.
for listening and staying tuned with us. That will be our last one for this year.
Yes.
I think 2020, and we'll join you 2021 with some. Whatever starts to arise again. So, as these things happen and these downloads come to us and we want to share them, we've tried to use the masculine and feminine to hold space and describe them and explore them and then bring them to you as well. So, thank you, everybody. Thanks for sticking around and staying with us for this period of time. And for anyone who's joined us, there'll be further links with other podcasts that we've been doing as well too. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.